After much anticipation
Yeah.
yesterday, we got the ticket for the 31st Legislative District. And I guess the most common thing I was hearing from voters, from residents, was, these are two establishment picks that are, well known. And we're pretty much on the top of most, well, not Barbara, but Angela on the top of most people's lists. So why did this take 3+ months to get together?
Well, look, I wanted to think through what the overall delegation in Hudson County and Jersey City would look like. Wanted to have a lot of conversations with the Black Caucus in Hudson County, particularly our council people, get their feedback. And, frankly, we have another month to go, so we figured we'd use the time and just make sure we're making the best decisions. I'm just really excited about, Angela and Barbara, and I think they're going to be good advocates for, what we're trying to do here in Jersey City.
All right, there was a report from the New Jersey Globe last week that said Denise Ridley was very much in the mix.
Yeah.
So was she someone that got serious consideration?
Look, I love Denise, and I think she's done a terrific job. The challenge there was that we weren't looking to have a special election in Jersey City. We have a lot of big initiatives that are looking to be completed over the next 2 years. She's been a key part of the team here. We work closely together. It just would have been really, really difficult to have a special election, which ultimately would have been November 2024 in the presidential year. So that, as transparent as I could be, that was like the biggest factor that was working against council people, filling that spot.
We also heard County Commissioner Jerry Walker. Obviously, we saw that he pulled petitions, hasn't said anything since the announcement, but was he in the mix as well?
Yeah, I mean, look, Jerry and I had breakfast yesterday. We had a conversation around this. What we tried to do was keep the balance with, racial balance, gender balance, and also making sure that they're extremely competent, high quality people that are in those spots. So, you have an African American woman that's represented that spot for, more than a decade, and we wanted to be consistent and make sure that Hudson County and specifically Jersey City is doing its part about raising people up that haven't had a voice historically.
Okay, point taken. So it's going to be at least that Senate race will be contested against Michael Griffin
Yeah,
and Frank Gilmore will be helping out people that you know well. What do you think about that matchup as it stands
I
today?
mean, look, we're committed to more than $500,000 spending on that race to make sure that the public in Kearney and Bayonne and the southern part of Jersey City know that Angela has a strong track record, and that Barbara is coming into the state assembly with probably more experience than any new elected official anywhere in New Jersey. I mean, she's worked as a legislative aide to assembly people before, to council people both in the north side of Jersey City and the south side of Jersey City. She's been close to the political organization both in the county. She's been the leader of the Jersey City political organization. So when you think about somebody that has familiarity with constituent services and the things that we advocate for on the local level, which to me is the most important level of government, Barbara Stamato is going to come and hit the ground running.
Okay, great. Now let's talk about, if we could, I wanted to revisit a couple topics we talked about
Sure,
last time.
talk about
So,
anything you like.
excellent. So, I know that one thing that, we haven't heard a lot of conversations in the past week or so, but there are still people that ask me who paid for that trip to Paris. So, can you tell me who paid for the trip to Paris?
Okay. I mean, look, let's take a step back here and talk about why it's kind of spun into a conversation where a small group of people speak about it. Um, you know, the Jersey City Times wrote an article, and as they consistently do, it tends to be misleading, not factual, with tons of anonymous sources that tend to be the editor and the publisher as the anonymous sources. If you take a step back, and if the public understood that blog, who is writing it, they would understood the biases that are there. You have one issue with his trust fund baby that's kind of been lost for a long period of time, trying to find his way, establish this because he's never really been successful in anything else. And the other one is, a failed perennial candidate for office that, has consistently tried to start business after business failed, try to have a voice in politics failed, and then kind of they've started this blog.
All right.
Now, here's the important thing on that is that, when you think about the Central Pompidou, they've spun it so many different ways with so much misleading information, and being that it's a blog, it's impossible to respond to. And so what we do is when a legitimate news source asks us information, we provide it. We provided the entire itinerary for what we did. And just to be factual about that, I wish I had time for a vacation. I wish I had time for a sightseeing tour, but none of that existed. I flew out Sunday night, an overnight flight, went to the office on Monday morning, meetings all day that we provided, meetings all day on Tuesday, and then flew back 6 a.m. Wednesday morning.
Yeah, I saw the
So, you know,
itinerary.
nobody came with me from personal life. It was entirely work. This is a transformative project for New Jersey and the region. It has major significance. It is the largest collection of modern art in all of Europe. It'll be a destination here in Jersey City, both for adults and more importantly for children around education, arts, and culture. They spend a lot of time here working with the community and the different organizations to help us put that together. And periodically, it is important that I go there just to keep the relationship going and to move this forward. I was there for 2 days. Now, who paid for it? That's an important question. And as I said earlier, not a single dollar of taxpayer dollars went towards this. In the EDC, so the Economic Development Corporation in Jersey City, during COVID, we established a fund based on private dollars to keep economic development going and support the city during COVID and post-COVID around economic development initiatives. We raised millions of dollars, we were transparent with that, and there's a couple $100,000 left focused on economic development. So entirely from the private sector, this fits consistently with what we've tried to do there, and that's the funding source. It's a nonprofit within that, and it's modeled after Choose New Jersey. So this is called Grow Jersey City, I think is what the entity is called. And you know, that's what's funded it in the past, and there's nothing to hide around it. But you know, when people write misinformation, it is impossible to refute that time and time again via blogs, and it's a total waste of time. So that's kind of how we got into this situation. And you know, when people that are legitimate news sources ask, we answer. When it's blogs that repeatedly promulgate misinformation or anonymous sources, we don't. And I think that's a reasonable thing to say.
This is the nonprofit arm of the Jersey City EDC.
Yeah.
And how much was the trip, approximately?
I mean, I don't have it. I mean, everybody flies out coach. We stay in a hotel that's in close proximity to the Centre Pompidou. We're in meetings all day, and then we come home. I mean, it's not really that glamorous. I know that that blog liked to call it a junket and a trip. I mean, it's pretty far from that, to be honest with you. So, you know, I couldn't get you the exact dollars, but you have access to that, I'm sure, and you could see the receipts and the checks, and I'd be happy to provide that. I mean, it's not a secret. That's where the entity is, and like I said earlier, you know, there's no federal dollars as they insinuated. There's no state dollars. There's no taxpayer dollars. None of that stuff. The goal of that entity was to keep economic development going during the pandemic and post the pandemic. And that's what we're doing. And this is as vital to Journal Square as a project as anything that we have. Actually, vital to New Jersey. And so, look, I think what we're doing is, you know, going to have a positive mark in Jersey City for the long term.
Okay, thanks for that. So the other thing that I wanted to revisit was the 911 system. So
Yeah.
did that make the agenda tonight? I didn't get a chance to look at that.
I'm not entirely sure if it was pulled. We had a conversation yesterday around it, but it's going to either be on tonight or in 2 weeks.
Okay, so the reason that I wanted to bring it up again is I can't say a whole lot of new information but I did get messaged by a couple employees, and their narrative was something to the tune of, you know, the employees aren't having their contract followed, and the only people that are getting overtime are the police officers, and that's why a lot of people hired as dispatch don't want to work. Is this something that you've heard before?
No, I mean, look, you know, we have looked into the contract there, and we've looked into the employees, we've looked into the performance over there, we looked into the culture, how people are responding, what we've paid. I thoroughly disagree with that assessment. There's no question that there's been issues in the past regarding personnel on multiple fronts, and we've tried to clean that up. But at the end of the day, there are systemic issues within that 911 within that 911 system that needs to be changed. What we were proposing when we came to this 6 months ago was to create a fresh set of eyes onto what we're doing there, how we can save money and improve service, if that was an option. And that's what we're going to bring back. I mean, ultimately, this is as a priority for us as anything. The 911 system is reliable. I mean, there has been isolated incidents that have been highlighted, and it should fail never. But we're going to make sure that it never fails, and that's the goal of this.
Okay, got it. So now another thing about a new topic. Of course, we're always talking about school funding. Probably
Yeah.
every other time we see each other, it comes up, right? So $51 million in state aid cuts, based on the past 5 years or so, that's actually not that bad, but still, $51 million is not a great set of circumstances. So let me ask you this, as someone who's probably going to run for governor in 2025, what would you do around that school funding formula so
Well,
that a place like Jersey City isn't always getting shortchanged?
but I think the reality was that S2 or S1 legislation was punitive towards us. I think it targeted us only, and I think there was political behind it. I mean, the legislature failed to recognize the fact that we have a very, very high free and reduced lunch population here in Jersey City, and we have a lot of poverty as well. They look solely at the waterfront, and they use that as an excuse to hurt the residents here. I think that entire legislation needs to be revisited, to be honest with you. I think, to be honest with you, the whole funding formula needs to be revisited. Um, I haven't spoken to the superintendent as we don't control their budget. Our recommendations in the past on how to control it haven't really gone anywhere. We're focused on our municipal budget, but I do understand that they have a surplus from last year with COVID money, and they have that money that was returned based on the lawsuit that they had. So they should have some tools to help out the taxpayers. And we're super conscious of the Jersey City budget and hope to introduce that in the next month or so.
Now, obviously, everyone is mad at Trent when this thing comes out annually, and as they should be. I mean, obviously,
Yeah,
you're not going to be happy about it,
yeah,
but occasionally you hear from some parents, some school trustees even, that say, we need more from the city. Like, they're not really giving us what we need to succeed. And I know we've talked about this again dozens of
I mean,
times, but I'm still going to bring it up.
yeah. Like I don't really know what that means. They are an independent elected body that has the ability to extract taxes, which they've done, and make changes to the budget, which they've done. They impact the residents the same way the city council and the mayor is an independent elected body that controls a budget and can extract taxes to control their budget. I'm not sure what they mean when they say that, if they just want us to transfer over 30, 40, 50 million dollars. The biggest challenge that I have when you look at their performance is really we're not seeing the progress that I think parents demand or we demand ultimately. Um, even in the last couple of years where you've seen the taxpayers put thousands upon thousands of dollars per household into the Board of Education, you ask yourself, what has been the performance change around that? What is the outcomes that are improving? And I think that's the reason that frustrates most residents. And so that's how I feel. I don't control their budget. I don't really understand that logic. And the fact that a Board of Education member would say that speaks to the fact that maybe they don't understand their own budget. And that's a bigger concern. And that's probably why we're in this situation. From our side, we have created more seats, classroom seats, for students in Jersey City than any municipality in New Jersey. We've done it by partnering with the traditional Board of Education, building PS 16. That was the city that did that. Or we've done it by partnering with the county, like we're doing at Liberty Science, Liberty SciTech High School, which will be breaking ground probably in the next month and a half, to Explore 2000, which we started, to expanding charter schools like we're doing with Brett Schundler, and that'll be 1,000+ seats. So from my standpoint, it's about creating opportunities for students using the resources we have, but not writing a blank check to a budget that is difficult to see, opaque, and hasn't really shown meaningful progress on outcomes.
All right, understood. Now, one council item that I noticed this evening is there was the first reading of an ordinance to get rid of the Construction Board of
Yeah.
Appeals. So, why was this something that the administration thought might be the right move at this time?
Okay, so we've been working on this for the better part of 2 years, trying to get legal opinions on what our options are. And the proposal on this ordinance is to remove the Construction Board of Appeals from Jersey City and roll it up into the county like every other municipality has in the county. And the reason is that, look, I'm concerned about conflicts of interest that exist on the Construction Board of Appeals. So you have state legislation that outlines who has to serve on the Construction Board of Appeals. So it says X number plumbers, X number electricians, X number inspectors, X number fire inspectors. And the challenge is that most of the people that sit on that board also are contractors in Jersey City doing the work, which is an inherent conflict of interest. Even if they recuse themselves from a specific thing that they're working on, they sit up there with a board member that they have a close proximity to that isn't recusing themselves. And so, not to say that anything nefarious is happening, but it definitely has the potential for something nefarious to happen. And so what we said was, how do you create a conflict-free environment? Because it's very difficult to find contractors that don't touch Jersey City today just based on our size in North Jersey. And so you could either pay retired contractors that have no conflicts, which would be very expensive for the city to do to sit on that board, or you could do what every other municipality does, which roll it into the county and have more of an arm's length distance hearing these sort of hearings overall. So it's not a perfect situation. We've spoken to the council about it. Now, the Construction Board of Appeals existing board members are lobbying the council members to keep the board as it is. And you need to ask yourself, why are they so concerned about keeping that board the way it is? It probably is because of what I'm saying about the conflicts of interest, because you've never seen a board before that's been abolished that the board members lobby so hard to keep the board as it is. And that's kind of where we are. So I think we're doing the right thing. I hope the council introduces it for further conversation. And, I think it's going to be helpful for the city long term. And I don't see any process change with regards to what the end product is to the resident of Jersey City.
All right, appreciate that synopsis there. So another thing that came up this week, obviously it's been busy already. We had these two incidents that are being reviewed by the Hudson County Prosecutor's Office.
Yeah.
I'm sure you're not going to say a whole lot, but still, I wanted to ask your opinion on what happened at Newport Mall and then on the west side there.
I mean, look, we referred all of the body camera footage over to the prosecutor's office, and we're waiting for feedback from them on what is the next course of action. If there's criminality from the police department, if not, then we will take action on the local level based on the Attorney General guidelines and the procedures in the Jersey City Police Department. So we've been aggressive on use of force. I think that's no secret here with regards to curtailing use of force and training around police officers so that there isn't a use of force incident. Unfortunately, those things do sometimes happen in any police department across the country. So we take it seriously. We refer everything over to the prosecutor's office. And our track record on disciplining police officers is as good as anybody in the state of New Jersey. We've terminated more police officers under my administration than any mayor, I bet, in New Jersey. It's not something necessarily that I'm so proud of, but it speaks to the fact that we don't tolerate misconduct. And we want a professional, respected police department that works hand in hand with the community. And if this incident or both those incidents turn out to be something other than what is expected from the JCPD when you see all of the body cameras, then we'll be taking aggressive discipline. I think that's fair to say. That's our track record. But there's no question we were concerned when we saw the video posted on the internet. We had questions regarding the video that was posted, specifically on how it was edited, but we turned everything over to the prosecutor's office, and we're just waiting for feedback now.
Okay. Now, speaking about JCPD, when marijuana was legalized here in New Jersey, you were one of the few municipalities, and I think the first that came out and said we don't want our officers using marijuana even if it's off duty. So now a directive from the New Jersey Attorney General's office has come out, and it says something to the effect that they aren't going to test for marijuana at the state level anymore. So what does that mean for Jersey City moving forward if you're going to maintain your policy that officers can't use marijuana at all?
I mean, it's a difficult predicament we're in. We asked for some guidance from our corporate counsel on what our next steps are. I mean, I still firmly believe that there are some occupations, like a police officer, that is making split-second decisions, and those decisions can't be compromised by anything. And the fact that testing and use will be more tolerated based on these guidelines, it seems like a questionable decision for me. I mean, we obviously don't like it, and we're looking at what recourse we have on the city side in order to continue what we've been doing here, which I think works.
So if you were elected governor, would this be something where you would make this a blanket mandate for the state, where that maybe police and fire, for example, can't use marijuana?
Look, I don't know what our options are. I think I've been pretty clear that when it comes to the police department in particular, they're carrying firearms, they're making decisions that impact residents, often life and death type of decisions. And, we've seen what happens when those decisions are questioned. We've seen litigation here on the local front that can be very, very expensive and costly, and more than that, impact life or death in many situations. So you don't want to have anything that compromises somebody's decision-making ability, and it's strange to me that the state wouldn't see it that way. But I say that as also somebody who has been amongst the biggest advocates of legalization of cannabis. We probably have more approvals in place here in Jersey City. We've let the market decide that. But again, there's certain professions that I do feel that need to have more guardrails around them, frankly speaking, and police is one of them.
Okay. Now, when we're talking just specifically on dispensaries, when do you think we'll start to see those places open in Jersey City, and when do you think we'll get the first consumption lounge to
I
open their
look.
doors?
There's two things. I mean, I've spoken to the council about putting a cap at some point onto the number of dispensaries because it does seem like you have a lot of people applying. And the sad thing to me is that most of these people probably won't be able to open ultimately just because they're not realistic about all the costs that the state puts in place in order to see it through. So you see people putting a huge amount of their life savings into this application process that ultimately may get approved at the local level but never see it through to actually opening. So putting some responsible limits would be healthy on that front. And then what I've mentioned to the council is that we should get in front of the consumption lounge conversation based on what we've learned from the dispensaries, meaning that we should put some limits around the consumption lounge because it has more of an impact directly in the community on how they look and how they operate. So whether you're limiting the number per ward or whether you're saying that there's only in certain specific areas of the city, the consumption lounge conversation is going to be coming really, really fast to the council in the near future. And if they don't set up responsible guardrails around that, they're going to have a lot of unsatisfied residents, to say the least.